Oh, how sacred water is! It purifies, rejuvenates, and cleanses all things. But legends tell of another source even greater, hidden from man's sight. A mythical source that can heal every living thing. It is even said that this special liquid can even give supernatural abilities. Who has power within one's feet to search for this great mystery? For it is spiritually elegant and pure. Some say that it takes the form of precipitation. Others say that it is deep within the bottom of the oceans. It is also said that it is of mystical falling snow, and some even say that it materializes into cold ice. Oh, how precious water is! But man have grown fatigue in their search. It is now but myth and legend. Just as its nature, it comes and it goes, moving constantly within the world. Water Emblem. The snow fell softly on the ground as Kliss looks at the window from within a wooden house. I am from the kingdom of water, but I can get used to this. He then sees a man walking slowly as his entire body was covered with crystal ice on the sidewalk. There goes another one, Kliss said, shaking his head. Don't worry. A woman with blonde hair with shut eyes replied behind him. Oh, Sarah, it's you. We will find the cure to rescue everyone from this curse, she said. Of course, Kliss replied. With the Union's help we can do the impossible, Kliss said, facing her. The Union is a hidden organization made for the sole purpose of finding the sacred water. The water is a myth and has never been found, but I know if we unite with all nations then we will solve this mystery, Kliss said in his mind, sitting by a table next to the window. Ah. He's dead. A woman screamed outside the cabin. Kliss and the woman ran outside the cabin and ran to the frozen man while it snowed. Why is this happening? A bystander asked, afraid. The middle-aged man was dead, standing up like a statue filled with ice. A woman and a child ran up to the transparent pillar of flesh. Daddy, the child called out, and the woman wept, touching his cold face. I will pray for the family, the woman said, standing next to Kliss on the sidewalk nearby. Now what in the world is going on here? Two knights are standing next to a woman with long blue hair. It's Phi, Kliss stated. This woman just hovered like it was nobody's business. One of the silver knights said with his sword equipped. Hey, I'm sure you were just seeing things, Sarah responded, stepping next to the blue-haired lady. The knight without his sword drawn started to briefly laugh. Are you asleep? Come on, let's get away from these jerks, Kliss interrupted, approaching them from the side. The three walked together back to the wooden cabin, but the blue-hair woman turned around suddenly. Her eyes briefly glowed blue, then two balls of ice the size of a bowling ball hit the backs of the armored knights. Phi, Kliss said, her name upset because he witnessed her sneaky attack. We have an ice seal on the loose. The sword-drawn knight said, looking around for them along with the other. Get in quick, Kliss said as they ran to the back door of the cabin. What were you thinking, Phi? Kliss asked, taking off his coat. I'm sorry, I'm just so used to levitating, I couldn't help it. This kingdom of Holland, just like its neighboring nations, is suspicious of anyone who is not of their own nation. It's all right, I'm just glad that you're safe, the blind woman replied. We'll wait for the heat to die down, then we'll look for Eros, Kliss said with a quick smile. Suddenly explosions can be heard outside of the cabin wall. A knock on the front door followed afterwards loudly. Don't answer it, Kliss warned. Open up, it's me, Thenolius. Upon hearing his voice, Kliss walked to the door quickly and opened it slowly. There was a man with glasses behind him that looked composed despite the sound of people screaming. We have to go now. Land is being attacked by this kingdom's rebels. The three ran outside with the two men to a carriage while bombings were heard all round the town. Its citizens are running to and fro in a panic. After an hour of riding, the group met up in another home in another town entirely made of snow. Welcome to Gladys, Thenolius said as he knocked on the door. This village, the homes are all crafted by snow. Incredible, Kliss said, looking around as children played in the streets. At once the door opened slowly. Are you from the Union? An overweight man with curly brown hair opened up with a smile. Yes. Thenolius answered. Please come in quick before someone notices. The members of the Union are all sitting at a table along with the overweight man and a guy with red hair. The wars are getting worse, Thenolius said after taking a sip of tea. All nations are at war, fighting with each other except for Aquatus, the red-hair man added, looking back at him. Let's get down to it, Kliss interrupted. There's a reason why the four of us from different nations are here right now. The red-haired man said, facing Kliss. It is rumored that the living water is in the far east of this region inside of the Thieves' Tower. Take it from them and report to us at once. We'll rendezvous in the world of rain known as the country of Tyr and Rin. But be careful, monsters are rumored to be around, but the four of you should have no trouble dealing with them. Let's get this over with, the man with red glasses said. He then stood up and walked towards the door followed by Kliss, Phi, and Sarah. "Hey you're going to the tower to find the sacred water?" A man said, leaning towards the enormous igloo wearing unusual clothing. "What's it to you?" Kliss asked. "I'll give you money for it. Sell it to my boss and he'll give you a fortune." "How do you know about our mission?" "Let's just say that I'm a man from a different land who knows how much that water is really worth." Kliss ignores the man and starts to walk off. "Does anyone know if there are others who know about the union?" Phi shook her head no as she walked. "What about you, Eros?" Phi asked him on her right. "No, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone knows about it through unseen works." Later the four heroes are walking in a snow-filled plain away from inhabitants as snow fall gently to the ground. Snowdrop plants thrived everywhere across the plain. The weather is unusually warm and the deers could be spotted here and there amongst the trees afar. "How long do we have to keep walking?" Phi asked obnoxiously. "We have to avoid attention as much as possible while Holland is having trouble with its own issues." Kliss replied. "Some say Holland is cursed because it was once a holy nation but now it is home to unclean spirits and it's filled with pride," Eros stated. "Okay, since we are all strangers, let us share one fact about ourselves each," Phi said cheerfully. Kliss looked at her curiously then looked down quickly. He then faces her, "I'm a barb." "What?" "Seriously," Phi said then chuckled. "I never figured that." She then faced the blonde woman walking next to her. "What about you, princess? I'm a ex-snow maiden here in Holland." "And?" Phi pressed on. "I can see what normal people can't, that's how I get around." "I did not know snow maidens exited anymore," Kliss said to her. "An interesting fact, what about you, quit guy?" Phi asked. "I rather not talk about myself," Eros said, pushing up his glasses looking away. "You're next," Kliss said. "Me? Well, I hate Holland nights." The four laughed joyfully. "You're an outcast like all of us and you know it," Kliss said. After 10 additional minutes of walking in the pleasant snowfall, they approached neighboring homes nearby from their right from afar, nestled in between a forest. "They're on fire," Eros stated. The group noticed flames as they walked closer with each step. "Come on, let's go help them," Phi said. "No," Eros countered. "We have to pass unnoticed to reach the tower." Phi turns to Kliss worried. About 10 humble homes separated across and beside each other were being burned violently. The residents of the area could be seen running around frightened. "Let's help them out," Kliss said. Sarah, Phi and Kliss ran to the group of houses followed lastly by Eros. Chapter 2. When they reached the burning buildings, the Union split up to assist as much as they could. "Too easy," Kliss said, staring at a 2-story house engulfed with flames. Kliss stood in front of the house and closed his eyes. Then opened them seconds later. Immediately a burst of water appeared on top of the home, dousing the fire from the roof like a waterfall from the air. Sarah stood next to 3 wooden cabins lined up in flames. Her body then began to shine yellow. Then suddenly 5 miniature cyclones filled with snow vanquished the flames as it went through the 3 homes, completely extinguishing the flames. Simultaneously 2 children cried out for help from another home on fire. Phi flew to the top of the window and they both grabbed onto her. "She can fly," one person stated from the crowd, pointing at her while she is in the air. Kliss summoned the same waterfall again and doused all the flames from above the home as he walked to Phi calmly. "My daughters," the mother of the 2, hugged the children that looked like twins. "You guys are walking miracles," an older man commented next to them. "Wait a moment, where's Sarah?" Kliss asked. "The last house that was on fire," Phi replied. She and Kliss ran to the last home and saw Sarah fending off what looked like an enormous blue lizard. "Sarah!" Phi called out, levitating towards her, followed by Kliss running behind her. While the Snow Maiden's sword was in the jaws of the creature, the blue lizard tossed the woman with her own weapon. She hit a snow-filled tree harshly due to the force. "Sarah!" Kliss shouted, then immediately Kliss' garments supernaturally changed after a flash of white light. Instead of his normal attire, it transitioned to that of a warrior. He had a stunning blue cape, blue breastplate, and he wore protection on his ankles and shoulders. The 3 people standing across from the scene looked on astonished. He then went towards the creature and stabbed it multiple times with his iron sword. The creature grunted while the piercing bounced back Kliss's sword as if the creature was protected by some kind of spiritual bubble. The lizard turned around and knocked Kliss off his feet with its tail, then he fell to the snowy ground. The lizard then fled away into the trees while Phi looked on confused. Hooray, you saved us, one person cheered among the crowd. Klus walked to Sarah standing next to Phi as he looked around. The creature ran off, but where is Eros? Klus asked her. If we don't go now, then we won't make it in time to take the water from the thieves' tower. Phi said. Did you say thieves' tower? They are all murders and on the run from execution. A man wearing a black hat and garments overheard the conversation near the two children and the mother. It's heavily guarded, but they trade with the country of Issa secretly. Klus looks at Sarah confused. The nation of Issa never accepts outsiders. In order to get in, you have approximately 30 minutes until it is surrounded by the leader's bodyguards. Phi. Why did you blurt out the mission? Klus asked, annoyed. Phi ignored him and just smiled. They take in stolen merchandise all around Holland before the afternoon, then they surround the tower with many men from the ship. We have no choice but to abandon our search for Eros, Sarah said. Wherever he is, he knows where to meet us. Let's hustle, Klus commanded. There's a shortcut to get to the thieves' tower down the hill where the large lizard ran. Thanks, Klus said, and the warriors ran that way. Chapter 2. There it is, Klus stated, looking at the white oval-shaped tower next to a river ahead. The team pressed forward speedingly, followed by Klus kicking down the door. Intruders. 3 bandits were inside of the circular-shaped tower. Phi knocked one with a wave of her blizzard power using her mind. They have zeals, the one with a bronze sword said, running towards Klus. Klus and the bandit clashed swords aggressively. Hey, freak show. A man with a hand axe in his hand threw the weapon at Phi, but luckily she dodged it by ducking. The woman flew in the air and equipped a rapier from her side. Then charged at the man while in flight, but the thief threw a nearby wooden chair at the woman, countering her attack. Phi severed the chair with her blade and quickly pierced its chest when she dived towards him. Klus chopped the head off the bandit clean off as it landed on the tiled ground, and Sarah wasted no time running up the stairs to the next floor. What is this? Sarah questioned loudly. Klus and Phi ran up to the floor and they too were astonished. The second floor revealed a large room filled with different types of monsters in glass tubes all around the circular room. What in the world? Phi asked, shocked. Welcome to my shop. A bald man with pirate attire from the floor above them came down the same stairs they used slowly. Where is the sacred water? Klus asked, pointing his sword at the man. Welcome to my humble abode, he said across from Klus, smug. Where's the water, and where did these disgusting monsters come from? Phi asked. The water is nothing but a myth, the man said, walking along his demonic collection with a grin. He's lying, Sarah commented. The man then turned around, looked at each of the warriors and started to morph. His body turned purple, his height increased and his muscles grew out of his skin, tearing the sleeves of his garment. Abomination. Sarah said, stepping forward next to Klus. What's going on? Klus asked, astonished. I have become one with the fiends, the tall, enhanced man said with a monstrous voice. And I am the leader of the Holland bandits. Klus and Phi charged at the man with their swords. With Klus's first swing, the man knocked his sword away with the brute force of his arm, then punched him in his chest. Klus walked back in order to catch his breath. Phi quickly manipulated her power, transforming her iron sword into ice, then swung her blade vertically. The man caught it with his hand, though bloodied, and tossed it aside. The evil man looked at his hand with a missing finger, a deep wound. Then he looked back at Phi. I didn't feel a thing, he said. While Phi backed up slowly, he charged at Phi and started to punch her, but a transparent shield of ice protected her. He repeatedly tried to punch the barrier with his attacks, and more the shield of ice started to break. Klus shook off the hard punch, witnessing the leader's aggressiveness. He then closed his eyes and opened them sternly. Miraculously, a geyser of hot water gushed from the ground beneath the bandit's feet, knocking him off balance. Ah! The man screamed. So that's his weakness, Klus said to himself, watching him suffer. But how? The purple man asked, looking at Klus. Nobody is able to create with their zeals, the man said. Fix your voice, Klus responded. Phi subsided her spiritual shield, then levitated from the ground stationary in mid-air. Stay back. Sarah shouted from the back by the stairs. The blind woman walked slowly to the scene. Ha! The man laughed. You are all pathetic. I am the leader of the bandits of this entire country. Holland really belongs to me. You wish, Phi responded while levitating. Sarah's body started to glow yellow as she positioned her arms in prayer. Mist started to appear around her, then it quickly spread to the end of the room. What is this fog? I'm starting to feel weaker. Yes. Klus cheered. You fools, the man said, still you won't be able to see me. Suddenly the man screamed in pain. What was that? Phi questioned as the fog started to disappear extremely quickly. Kliss and Phi looked back at where the bandit was as soon as the mist cleared and was surprised by what they instantly saw. Sarah stood behind the body of the thief with her sword as it lay in his stomach in the puddle of its own green blood. He reverted back to his human form, Phi confirmed, staring at his lifeless body while descending. Just a bogus tip, Sarah said, putting away her weapon into the sheath. How did you do that? Phi asked her while the three walked up to the next floor. The original maidens of Holland cast out devils, but now there are a few of us left, she simply replied. The next floor looked more like a small factory. In the middle of the floor there was a small pool of water that glowed white. Along the walls were multiple desks carrying silverwares, cups, bottles and sample tubes filled with the glowing substance. We found it, Phi said excitedly. Then they all ran towards the giant bowl of shining liquid. Where did they get this from, I wonder? Kliss asked, cupping the liquid by hand. Come on, let's signal the others, Phi said eagerly. While the two headed towards the stairs, Kliss grabbed a bottle of the glowing water and snuck it in his pocket. Phi waved a signal flare towards the west by the tower towards a group of poorly made igloos from afar. Then immediately people ran from outside the igloos heading their way. Some were even on horseback. About 20 members of the Union made their way across the snowy plain to the tower. Good work, Thenolius said, getting off his horse across from Kliss. More bandits will be back, Kliss responded. Check the second floor and take as much sacred water as you can, Phi announced. All the members ran in the tower to loot the bandits. Suddenly a ship started to sail by the sea faster than normal. Darn it, they're here, Kliss stated next to Phi and Sarah. They must have a wind seal user on board, Sarah said. Move quickly, Thenolius shouted, coming out of the tower. Those who can fight assist in the battle. 5 able warriors stayed, the rest retreated to the west. Meet us in the town of Silphur, when you're done, Thenolius said to Kliss with a smirk. Will do, Kliss responded. I'm itching for a fight. Who is? Phi asked next to Kliss, looking around briefly. A man with fully gold armor walked up to the two from behind. Kliss and Phi saw the man and were relieved. You're the backbone of the Union base, Kliss replied. 2 warriors on horseback brought forth their swords from their sheaths. One rode his horse beside Phi and the other one was beside Sarah. The other 2 men stood behind them with their drawn blades. When the ship successfully docked, the thieves rushed out of the ship towards the Union with axes and swords. 7 total the man in gold armor counted, then charged into battle. Kliss aimed his water at 2 bandits left on the dock, aiming their projectiles from above. The 2 were shot quickly by Kliss' power by 2 small streams of water, knocking them off their feet. Sarah entered the fray next to the Golden Knight, fighting side by side with him against 3 bandits fiercely. Phi, while standing next to Kliss, summoned ice needles with her mind at the other thieves trying to reach her and Kliss. Reinforcements, one of the colored-haired swordsmen said from the Union in a sword struggle with one of the bandits. Another ship sailed normally from afar, heading to the dock. Immediately a man with black short hair jumped out of the first ship's deck, guided by a mysterious wind filled with snowflakes that caught his fall. A snow user, Kliss said to himself. Sarah walked in front of Kliss and sent hail towards the bandit, making him lose his footing. The 2 men that were hit by Kliss's attack retaliated by shooting him with projectiles tipped with flames. More than I thought, Kliss said to himself as 4 projectile users assisted the drenched bandits on deck. Phi waved a signal flare towards the west by the tower towards a group of poorly made igloos from afar. Then immediately people ran from outside the igloos heading their way. Some were even on horseback. About 20 members of the Union made their way across the snowy plain to the tower. Good work, Thenolius said, getting off his horse across from Kliss. More bandits will be back, Kliss responded. Check the second floor and take as much sacred water as you can, Phi announced. All the members ran in the tower to loot the bandits. Suddenly a ship started to sail by the sea faster than normal. Darn it, they're here, Kliss stated next to Phi and Sarah. They must have a wind seal user on board, Sarah said. Move quickly, Thenolius shouted, coming out of the tower. Those who can fight assist in the battle. 5 able warriors stayed, the rest retreated to the west. Meet us in the town of Silphur, when you're done, Thenolius said to Kliss with a smirk. Will do, Kliss responded. I'm itching for a fight. Who is? Phi asked next to Kliss, looking around briefly. A man with fully gold armor walked up to the 2 from behind. Kliss and Phi saw the man and were relieved. You're the backbone of the Union base, Kliss replied. 2 warriors on horseback brought forth their swords from their sheaths. One rode his horse beside Phi and the other one was beside Sarah. The other 2 men stood behind them with their drawn blades. When the ship successfully docked, the thieves rushed out of the ship towards the Union with axes and swords. 7 total the man in gold armor counted, then charged into battle. Kliss aimed his water at two bandits left on the dock, aiming their projectiles from above. The two were shot quickly by Kliss' power by two small streams of water, knocking them off their feet. Sarah entered the fray next to the Golden Knight, fighting side by side with him against three bandits fiercely. Fi, while standing next to Kliss, summoned ice needles with her mind at the other thieves trying to reach her and Kliss. Reinforcements, one of the colored-haired swordsmen said from the Union in a sword struggle with one of the bandits. Another ship sailed normally from afar, heading to the dock. Immediately a man with black short hair jumped out of the first ship's deck, guided by a mysterious wind filled with snowflakes that caught his fall. A snow user, Kliss said to himself. Sarah walked in front of Kliss and sent hail towards the bandit, making him lose his footing. The two men that were hit by Kliss's attack retaliated by shooting him with projectiles tipped with flames. More than I thought, Kliss said to himself as four projectile users assisted the drenched bandits on deck. Two of their ammunition hit Kliss's chest, but luckily his armor protected him from the shots. I'm running out of zeal power because of the homes, Kliss said to himself. Kliss started to run towards the ship with his sword while Fi took to the air and started to slash the bandits on deck with her weapon. The ship that was afar landed beside the other and two men emerged from the deck. Ah. Sarah was stabbed in the shoulder by the snow manipulator with a rapier. You're a traitor. The bandit said to her. What are you doing with someone from Akotis? Sarah didn't respond. And so you die. The bandit readied his sword to pierce the woman's flesh again. The man was suddenly startled, staring into space as leaked blood poured from his backside onto the ground. Eros. Sarah said, surprised. Eros pulled out his sword from the thief, then he fell onto the ground. You saved my life. Don't mention it. Eros responded. Kliss and Fi finished off the projectilers on deck while two men from the ship across from them applied a wooden bridge, challenging them to a fight. You fought our leader, I assume, but I'm the real deal around here, the man boasted, wearing a pirate's attire with a black cape. The man next to him looked like an average henchman, giggling beside him. Kliss slowly walked over to the other ship with his sword, followed by Fi as the prideful man stretched out both arms. Kliss square up against the caped man and Fi ran towards the other, swinging her ice sword at the man aggressively. The bandit countered her aggression with his iron axe. You're good, but I'm better, he replied. The caped man reached for his weapon and withdrew a glowing red sword. This is my baby, the man said, positioning it for attacking. I stole it right from Holland's capital. You Hollanders are all being judged for your deeds, Kliss said. The man smirked, then charged at Kliss quickly. When Kliss' sword made contact with the pirate, his own blade started to vibrate. Kliss ignored the unusual weapon and tried to hit the bandit's vitals, but each time he was blocked by his vibrating sword. The sword has been mechanically modified from the inside, Kliss said in his mind, trying to keep himself from losing focus. Every time my blade hits his, my blade bounces back every time. Hold on, the Golden Knight shouted below the ship, sensing Kliss losing his grip. The Gold Knight, known as Vase Eros, was the only one amongst the assisting Union alive. They ran to the entrance of the ship. The caped man slashed Kliss' arm, making him stumble. Nice armor, the bandit said, then kicked Kliss on the ground by his foot. Fi assisted the battle by hurling icicles at the bandit, which caught him off guard. One of the needles pierced his shoulder, but miraculously he blocked the remaining three icicles automatically and somewhat strangely. So you have defeated Nars, the pirate said, looking at his partner on the ground with ice in his flesh, while Kliss was trying to repair his wound. Fi fights the caped man with all her might. The Gold Knight, followed by Eros, emerged from the ship's door up top, then ran across the bridge. Are you all right? Vase said, examining his wound. The caped man pushed back Fi with his unusual blade. Fi! Kliss shouted. It's something about his sword, she shouted, bracing for impact from his wild swings. Vase ran to the side of the bandit with his metal sword, but the man turned and hacked Vase's sword in two. He then reached into his pocket and quickly pulled out a bomb. To the touch of his rings, the incendiary ignited. Are you kidding? The knight said, walking backwards slowly. The blast knocked him to his feet when thrown. Enough of this. Eros faced the bandit and a miniature black storm appeared directly above the man. Black clouds hovered above the man and a thunderbolt struck the man from the top of his head, knocking him out quickly. Eros walked up to his body on the ground. How? How can you do that? You're not from Holland. I would have won if only you weren't here. The Union will overpower your crimes, Eros responded. The pirate laughed painfully as blood spewed from his mouth, then died. The team gathered together quickly on top of the deck, including Sarah. Well, we survived, Vase said, with damaged armor. Now what do we do? Fi asked, worried, looking at Sarah's wound. Kliss pulled out the same bottle that he took from the tower and applied to his cut. Now looks who's the thief, Fi said, looking at Kliss's direction. My wound, it's healing, Kliss announced. The group immediately looked joyful. Apply it to Sarah's wound, the Gold Knight suggested. Plus walked over to Sarah and poured it on her sore. I feel a lot better, she confirmed. Suddenly blood started to reappear from Kliss's cut immediately, then Sarah's wound reopened as well. All this for nothing, Eros stated, looking on. We better get you both to a real healer, Phi said. Kliss notices the man Phi fought on the deck still moving slowly, then speedily walked to the bandit, grabbing his shirt. Hey. Where did you get this fake sacred water? Okay, just don't kill me please. The man got up tiredly, examining his own wounds from Phi. We stole it from the nation of Aquatis, the world of water. Everyone looked astonished because of his answer. Chapter 3. That's impossible. The Union was established from there, Eros stated. It's true, honestly. We took a sample of the sacred water from the underwater nation, and not the heart of water. TSS. Makes sense, Kliss replied. You're from the heart of water, aren't you, Kliss? Phi asked. Yes, the non-spiritual side of Aquatis are just as bad as Holland. That's why they deserve to be judged by the ice petrification. Kliss said, somewhat angry. I can take you there, if you let me live, just please keep that woman away from me. Phi stares at the man suspiciously. Can we really trust a pirate? The damaged Golden Knight asked Kliss beside him. We don't have any choice, he replied. The Union has us running in circles. If we can somehow get a sample of the original water, then maybe we can increase the amount. Thenolius is going to be angry. Phi said. He'll be okay. Kliss replied. Great, I am Nars, the pirate said, and this is my ship. I will take you to where you need to go as payment for keeping me alive. You don't seem like a bandit, Eros said, looking at him. I joined out of desperation. This is actually my first day on the job. My record's clean, honest. The team sailed off on the ship with the pirate behind the steering wheel. It won't take long, Kliss said, sitting down in one of the ship's rooms along with members of the Union. How's your arm, Vase asked Sarah. It's a lot better. Good thing they had medicine on board, she replied. Where did you go, Eros? Phi asked, concerned. I got lost, Eros replied, fixing up his glasses. I spotted some trees that needed to be extinguished, but I lost my way. Excuse me, I'm going to get some rest. Kliss is sitting in front of a large window in a separate room overlooking waves of water. While he sat listening to the sound of the ship moving, Kliss thought about the people going through a frozen curse. This world is falling apart, Kliss said to himself. There is nothing better than a peaceful mind. If your mind is untampered, then you don't need anything else. Suddenly a supernatural sparkle of light glimmered on the waters afar. What was that? Kliss wondered. Eros knocks on Kliss's door. We've arrived, he said. As Kliss and Eros walked behind Sarah and Phi, Kliss grabbed the shoulder of Eros briefly. Keep an eye on this guy, Kliss muttered to Eros. I'm on it, Eros replied. Momentarily the group arrived in the nation of Aquatis. How's it feel to be back home, Kliss? Sarah asked as they walked within an enormous glass dome underwater. I feel no different, Kliss responded. The group followed the pirate from within the underwater city along the street, sightseeing the unique buildings as they walked by. Well, look who has returned. The group turned around and saw a man with black hair covered up with armor designed with aquatic plants. The man took off his helmet, walking up to Kliss. It's only you, Larson, Kliss said sarcastically. When are you going to join our ranks again? It's not the same without you. You know my reasons. Kliss responded. Well, it's good to see you. Take care of yourself. The knight walked away while putting back his helmet. That's a unique armor, Phi said. It's made to fight underwater, fastening a person's movements. They just released the new armor recently, Kliss responded as they walked. It's this way, the pirate stated. The team stopped and faced their right, overlooking a home decorated with gems. The pirate knocked on the door softly. What do you want? An older gentleman with a white cape and a brown tunic opened his door. His face was pale as snow. These men would like to talk to you about the sacred water, the pirate said. The brown-haired man looked at the four heroes briefly from the opening. Then immediately the door slammed shut. Kliss eagerly walks to the door from behind everyone. Please, we are desperate for clues, Kliss shouted by the door, then looked back at Phi. We have someone with us who can fly. The door opened wide open. Get in, the man said. Next, the warriors of nature along with Vase and Nars is drinking tea in his home filled with aquariums. The roof of his entire house was transparent. You don't look so good, Mr. Phi stated, sitting down across from him. Indeed, the man said. I noticed that your hair is blue. You're one of the hidden celestials, I bet. Phi fixed her hair and looked away. I don't know where I came from, she admitted. I'm an archaeologist. I know a mystery when I see one. Anyway, sir, please don't get upset, Kliss said. The pirate looked worried. Someone took your sample of the sacred water and tried to make a profit of it, Kliss said, sitting next to Phi. The man stopped drinking from his mug and set it on the table. Wahaha. He laughed hysterically. Oh, that stuff. It wasn't the mythical water, it was a recipe of an old remedy the ancient Nubians used. It only works unless you have an evil spirit. Kliss looked down disappointed. Another wild goose chase, Eros said by the Golden Knight. I'm sorry, I wish I could help. I may be a famous archaeologist in Aquatis, but even I haven't found it. May I ask, why is this woman from the ice world here? The man asked. The team quickly looked at each other in silence. We are from an organization called the Union. We are all from each of the main nations. Kliss, what are you doing? Eros interrupted. We have to keep this a secret. Interestingly, the man said, I'm guessing that the blind woman is from Holland because of her patterned look in the center of her attire, mimicking a snow maiden perhaps. The guy with the glasses is from Tyr, the world of rain, because you're so calm and collected, and you must be from Aquatis because of your skin. The team looked at each other again curiously. How did you know? Phi asked. I'm from Holland too, the Golden Knight interrupted at a separate table. The man looked at Kliss. I see, so you're hearkening onto the ancient poem found in Aquatis. I don't think it's ever been followed like that. I commend you. You know about it? Kliss asked. Of course I do. I'm Aiden Floyd. Oh, how sacred water is. It purifies, rejuvenates and cleanses all things. But legends tell of another source even greater, hidden from man's sight. A mythical source that can heal every living thing, the archaeologist quoted. I can't remember the rest of it. Everyone run. Everyone in the room rushed outside. People screamed in horror outside the street. A huge aquatic monster swarmed above the transparent dome. The monster gracefully swam away from everyone's sight below. Phew, Aiden said. It was only scaring us, Kliss said, relieved. All nations seem to be going through their own personal affliction, Eros said next to Kliss and Sarah. We can't go back the way we came as long as that creature is swimming around, and if anyone notices us, we'll be executed, Sarah said. The nations don't like each other. Come on, I'll take you to a secret tunnel, Aiden said. I never heard of it, Kliss said as they all walked along the busy street. It was created to avoid attention for a reason, Aiden replied. After 10 minutes of walking, the group appeared across a huge arena. What a wonderful building, Phi commented. It hasn't been occupied for a while because of the troubles, Kliss said. Come on, the path is hidden in the arena, hand it over. A scene of Holland knights oppressing its citizens by the town exit caught the attention of the warriors. 11 knights of Holland reached in the pockets of the citizens as they waited in line to leave the city. They are the real monsters, Phi said, looking at them upset. One knight grabbed a man, gripping him with his iron arm, then he drew his sword. He's gonna kill him, the pirate said. The team ran to the knights and all the knights of Holland withdrew their weapons, preparing for battle. Sarah engaged herself with a Holland knight, infusing her cold air within the knight's armor, mysteriously slowing his movements down. Base tackled one equipped with an axe and he countered with his secondary weapon, which was a mace. I have to knock his shield away. At the same time avoid his axe because of my damaged armor, he said to himself. Kliss ran closer to the one who tried to murder the civilian. Come on, the Silver Knight taunted, bracing for conflict. Kliss and the knight engaged in a one-on-one sword battle. They both fought aggressively and quickly, seemingly evenly matched. Phi took to the air, speedingly reaching the scared civilians, helping them evacuate as Eros fought 2 knights by himself. Sarah executed her opponent with a final swing at the side of the man, then defended herself, fighting off against another knight that snuck from her side. The Golden Knight Base defeated his opponent in a draw. As the Holland Knight lay on the ground dead, Base was sitting on the ground, losing blood from his back. Phi froze her opponent to death by an icy wind using her mind while hovering afar. When she descended, she was instantly ambushed by another that hid. Time for some smarts, the pirate said, sneaking behind one of the buildings in order to get close to 2 of the knights standing by to assist the battle. Immediately he took out his hand grenades and tossed them at the 2 behind them, blowing them up by fire. Are you going to attack the famous Aiden Floyd? The archaeologist said, backing up from the last 2 knights with drawn swords. The man closed his eyes, then opened them quickly. Suddenly snowflakes of ice filled with electricity fell upon their heads. While distracted, Aiden finished them off by thrusting a dagger through the knights from behind. Retreat. The knight that fought with Kliss was bested, running away past Eros, who just assassinated another one. While the knight lay on the ground, he pulled his sword outside of the knight's flesh while his other opponent ran behind the fleeing soldier. Victory! Kliss shouted. They all grouped together near Vase. Don't move, Sarah said. We'll get you to a healer, she said, wrapping a cloth around his wound. I'm fine, Vase said, trying to stand but had trouble. A young man ran towards the beaten knight. Thanks, mister, for protecting me and my family. Then he ran back to his parents and waved while leaving the area. I'm okay, let's keep moving, he said. The team quickly moved to the arena from the side entrance. And there's still people here, Aiden stated. Oh wow, they're playing ice-Fi said. Inside of the arena was an ice ring surrounded by many seats. Many lanes were side by side, which included measurements along the walls of the lane from the start to the very end. The first part of the arena from below was not ice. From there the athletes ran with all their might from the starting line to the ice lane and slide in the lane while steering their bodies with their shoes. When they stopped, a referee measures the distance already printed on the lane's wall. A new record, someone shouted. The audience cheered. This looks like fun, Phi commented. There aren't supposed to be anyone in here under martial law, Cliss said, but our people are hard-headed. The group ignored the sport and headed down the stairs while the fans still cheered loudly. Chapter 4. That zeal you've demonstrated looked different. I caught a glance at it when I looked in your direction, Cliss said, walking next to Aiden as they walked through the stadium. It's a technique that focuses on more than one nature, he responded. Aquitas focuses on water, Tyr focuses on rain, Holland focuses on snow, and Issa focuses on ice. If you concentrate on the source of nature, then it is possible to use more than one. That's fascinating, Sarah commented, overhearing the conversation. The nations of our world are all divided and are at war with each other, that's why they missed this unique fact, Aiden added. We're taking a big risk traveling to different countries to look for the sacred water. Thank you so much for your help, Vase said. The team finally reached the end of the arena, leading them back to where they started. Nice ship, Aiden commented. Eros tapped Cliss's shoulder from behind. Are we really going to go back to headquarters like this while that monster is roaming around and Holland soldiers surveillancing the route back to the dock? That creature is a new threat to Aquitas but not to Heart of Water, so I don't know much about it. It haunts our nation supernaturally, Aiden added, overhearing the conversation. Like a ghost, it is also sensitive to movement. If it notices vibration, it will attack. The Holland Knights will be looking for us if we turn back the same way because of their rebel problems, Sarah said. Some say that it takes the form of precipitation. What are you thinking about, Eros? Cliss asked. Eros faces Aiden. You're zealed with all the natures combined. It reminds me of an old temple in Tyr, but because of isolation no one has ever gone. Only with brotherly love can this passage be revealed. That's what has been deciphered on the stone tablet by the temple door. Interesting, according to the new poem we found, precipitation causes most forms of water like that attack of yours, Cliss said. We have nothing to lose, Phi replied excitedly. I'm in, Nars said. The warriors sailed off to an alternate route to Terre in order to put an end to the chaos of war. Some time later, Cliss is sleeping in a room and is beholding a vision supernaturally. The star that the planet revolves around settled within the ocean, levitating downward slowly. The miniature-sized star, while underneath, created white steam. Afterwards, the entire body of water started to boil. Cliss then woke up in a cold sweat. We'll reach the portal soon, the pirate announced as the team all stand on the deck. Sarah is on the back of the ship manipulating the sail, with her wind power using her mind. How can you tell if this is the portal? Phi asked the pirate. The color of the water is slightly different. He responded. Just watch, you'll see. In a twinkling of an eye, the ship teleported to a brand new area. Welcome to Tyr, Eros announced. The sky was filled with dark clouds as it rained gently. And from afar they could see the nation from afar. Park the ship towards the forest of Trial. Eros commanded. We can go to the village and stock up on supplies if need be. Good, I could use a new sword, Phi said. I can use a new chest plate, the Golden Knight added. Momentarily the pirates stationed the ship and the group visited the village's shops for all their needs. This country, does it always rain? Phi asked Eros, walking next to him out of the village. Mostly, he responded. That's why it's known as the world of rain, because of this fact. Holland is known as the world of snow because of its constant snowfall. Later the Union, Nars and Aiden are beholding a massive eroded temple made of iron. Good, let's go inside, Phi said and flew to the iron door. It won't open that easily, Aiden teased. Look here, Eros said, walking to the side of the temple. On the side of the temple are 4 circular patterns on the temple wall, but only one of them had a symbol of a flame on top of the target. Eros walks in front of the mystery. No one has ever opened the temple, but I believe that maybe all zeals can somehow open the door. That's unusual, no one can use fire zeals, the Golden Knight said. Let's try it. It looks like fun, Aiden said. The 5 zeal users all lined up across an individual target. Here goes nothing, Phi said, then telepathically froze her target gently. Eros summoned gentle rain on top of the fire target, then shocked it with lightning. Sarah shot a snowball at her target. Aiden hit his target with a small blast of water. Lastly, Kliss summoned water at his target with a miniature waterfall. Well, that didn't work, Aiden announced. Kliss stares at the fire symbol across from Eros. I thought maybe electricity might have worked, Eros said to Phi standing beside her. Wait. Kliss interrupted, then walked to Eros. Switch places with me. But why would it matter? He questioned. This puzzle is a mystery. It doesn't matter which target the other zealous types hit. Only this one is important, Kliss said. I figured that, Aiden said. Eros exchanged places with Kliss and they all hit their target the same way. It's still not working, Phi said, upset, but Kliss is continuously spraying his target from his mind from above. Steam started to engulf the target. What the hey? Eros said, looking at his direction. How are you doing that, mate? Nars said behind him. Straight away the 5 targets briefly glowed blue, and the sound of the door was heard slowly opening. You did it, Aiden said. That's impossible. No one has ever seen the targets glow like that, Eros said. Come on, let's go in, Phi said. The team beheld the temple door wide open, then began to walk in cautiously. This looks amazing, Aiden said. The inside was made of light and machinery beyond their comprehension. I'm so glad I tagged along with you guys, Aiden said. Everyone chuckled. The mechanized walls are all made of electricity, just like our nation's zeal, which is capable of thunderbolts, Eros said. The team walks slowly towards the wondrous temple and sees a single paper on a cylinder stone as a ray of light shines on top of it from above. Can you read it? Kliss asked Aiden. Behold, the world is out of order. Men's hearts have become a cold wind. They war with each other, filled with pride. With frozen mercy they show no love. Drowned by worldliness, the cares of other things are more important. Not even the hidden nation bothers to show itself. The source has been replaced with a spirit of war and chaos. But warmth of love is the key to face the evil spirit. Only with united respect can this world be cleansed by the heart of a stranger. Miracles are meant to stand out from normalcy. Oh, when will this blessed world be healed from within? That was beautiful, Sarah commented. Did you get all that? Base? Kliss asked. Every word, he replied, putting away his paper and pencil into his pocket. Intruders. A group of soldiers wearing gray garments with wooden staff ran towards the group. Arrest them, one of the soldiers said. Don't attack, Eros warned with his arms up. If you do, they will punish this whole village. The Union, along with Aiden and Nars, all exited the building with hands raised, followed by the soldiers. Chapter 5. Good job, my thunder soldiers. A man wearing a white crown sitting on a lustrous throne stares at Kliss angrily. 5 soldiers stood by his throne on the right and 5 more soldiers stood on his left. Who are you? The king asked. Like we'll tell you, Phi responded. Eros walks towards the king slowly. I offer them to you, my king. What the? Nars said, turning beside him. I led them to the temple so they can be caught by your men stationed by the sacred temple. Who are you? The king asked. I'm Eros from Com's King Iska, and these people are all from an organization called Union. Each of them are a citizen from one of the 4 zealous kingdoms. The king looked at each of the trespassers, then laughed sinisterly. Well done, Eros. You know we don't like outsiders. You traitor. The Golden Knight shouted. I commend you for opening the ancient temple. It never was opened before. How did you do it? King Iska asked. No one answers. Negative. One of you is a threat to my rulership. I cannot let any of you live. Kliss, Sarah whispered his name from his right. He's possessed. How do you know? Kliss whispered. I just know, she said. Can you distract them with your fog? I'm all out of power manipulating wind for the ship. Kill them. The soldiers hastily readied their staffs, then electricity surrounded their weapons as they walked towards the warriors. Engage, Kliss commanded. Eros walked backwards slowly to get away. Kliss fought against 2 with his weapon. Fighting alongside him from behind, Sarah fended herself from 2 as well. Base and 5 fought side by side as well, putting fear in the soldiers because of their skill. Aiden sent a powerful collection of his unique water manipulation, pushing back the remaining soldiers with his unique seal. There's just too many of them, the pirate said, locking swords with a soldier. The 2 soldiers overcame Kliss as he is being pushed back. Sarah annihilated one but is having trouble because of the effects of their electricity. Die, freak. A soldier sliced Fia's waist, forcing her to take to the air as blood falls from her wound. Miraculously, at once people wearing attire from Tyr started to enter the room in a rush. "What's this intrusion?" the king asked. The intruders ran to assist the Union with swords. While the Golden Knight finally won his battle, ending his opponent with a final cut. Two helpers backed the knight by standing beside him. Then they all fought the same opponent together. More soldiers of Tyr joined the battle, turning the lustrous throne room into a battlefield. "Push them back," Plus commanded fiercely in battle alongside his partners. The Union and the assisting members outnumbered the knights and finally won the chaotic struggle. Plus delivered the last strike with his sword. The victory, Eros shouted behind the king's throne and stabbed the king through the chair from behind. "What?" Aiden questioned. The rebels cheered at once as Eros removed his blade. "Assassination?" Sarah questioned. Eros walked to Klus. "I'm sorry I mislead you all. We had to use the help of the Union to kill the tyrant king. That was the sole reason why I joined the Union. But that does not mean I'm not dedicated to finding the sacred H2O. Klus stares at his eyes. "Okay, cool." Klus replied. "You fools." The deceased king dead body from the ground started to glow purple. The purple light imitated the body of King Iska, for he was split from the physical standing next to the lifeless king in a flash. The entity then took 2 steps forward and begins to speak with a monster voice. "I am Valdamu, the ancient spirit of war and chaos. I've been possessing the lineage of the Tyr royalty too many times that I cared to count. One of you is the chosen one, otherwise you would not have been able to open the temple." It slowly looked at everyone. Union members on guard. Klus shouted. Everyone charged at the phantom tyrant but was knocked backwards afar by a wave of its telepathic purple energy. Wave after wave, the assistant warriors from Tyr and the members of the Union, including Nars and Aiden, continuously were pushed back by his mind with ease. "He's way too strong," Sarah stated as everyone gathered their composure with ripped garments and armor. "Of course I am," the phantom said. "I am a spirit of war, but I need a body of a truly evil person to possess a human's mind." "What do you want with the nation of Tyr?" Klus asked, holding his blooded arm. "I'm actually in control of every major problem each zealous nation has. As long as you fools continue to abandon the way of water, then I will continue to thrive, ruling through chaos." "But you're not human?" Phi questioned. "My main body is the sea monster haunting Aquatis. I have merely minutes until I am forced to be one with my true self, because I cannot dwell in the physical without a host." "We have to kill it now," Vase said next to Klus. "If we can somehow kill him now, then maybe we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone," Aiden added. "I'll handle it," Eros said behind Klus and Vase. Eros walks forward from the warriors now in front of the evil spirit. "What are you doing, man?" Nars questioned. Eros closed his eyes. Then suddenly a blue light covered his body completely. While in the light his body shapeshifted to a 4-limbed animal. "What's happening to Eros?" Aiden asked. Straight away the light disappeared, revealing a large lizard. "What the hey?" Klus questioned. "It's the monster from before," Sarah stated. The lizard grunted and simultaneously an enormous lightning blast of energy appeared towards the phantom. But the phantom countered by his same attack, pushing back the awesome power in a stalemate. "The battle of the minds," Sarah said, looking on. The power of Eros overpowered Valdamu's energy bit by bit. "This cannot be," Valdamu said as the thunderstorm was getting closer to his body. "He got him." Klus cheered, but immediately the phantom disappeared, releasing the lightning blast's impact towards the throne and wall. The attack burst through the wall, making a pile of rubble everywhere it went until it was not heard throughout the castle. "Aw man. He was so close," Phi said. The lizard turned around and faced everyone, then Eros morphed back to his human form. Everyone gathered around him celebrating. "Good job, sir," one from Tyr said. "That was epic," another one said. Eros walked to Klus across from him. "I know I have some explaining to do," he said. "No you don't. You have my united respect," Klus replied with a smile. Chapter 6. The warriors are all sitting by a round table as the pirate sails the boat on deck. Taking advantage of the invisible portal to skip to the other side, the team are on a route back to Holland to meet with the other members of the Union. "Just like mentally we can manipulate water, I found a way to morph into my other form, but I lost control before because of the drama of the homes catching fire. I've heard of people like yourself in my travels," Aiden said. "It is known as the lost ability, originating from the lost countries, some believe. I found old manuscripts about a man who shot light with a unique projectile. It was said that he morphed into an enormous bird, but I don't know if this ancient story is fiction or non-fiction." "Speaking of missing lands," Vase said, "according to the poem we found in the temple, the puzzle we figured out on the side of it and with Valdamu's own mouth, this is the key. How can you manipulate water to be hot?" he asked. "I don't know," he replied. I think when I was younger, I was angry because of all the worldliness going on with Aquatus and all the senseless wars by our nations. Then one day when I was up against a burglar, I burned him with a waterfall of heat. Really? Phi asked, astonished. No one has ever done that before, Eros added, pushing up his glasses. Miracles are meant to stand out from normalcy. Sarah quoted. According to the poem of prophecy we've found, it points out each flaw our nations are going through, and Valdamu is the cause of all this. Klus said. We need reinforcements if we're going to put an end to this monster. Vase relied. We'll assist however we can, a man said with tear attire, walking by a long-haired woman entering the room from the back. These are my top supporters and fighters, Eros said. They are happy to lend a hand. The more the better. Welcome to the Union, Klus said with a smile. Welcome back, Thanolius said, outdoors standing by a tent. The group are all camping out on top of blue snow in the middle of nowhere to avoid detection. I have good news. We are free to be at ease in Holland. The government has allowed us to carry on without tasks in search for the sacred water. What happened? Phi asked. The King of Holland is so impressed that we killed the leader of the bandits, he stopped all actions of persecuting the Union. The warriors from the ship expressed relief. That's good news, Klus said. It gets even better. He asked all of us to come to a party near the Holy Fountain. Things are looking up, Phi commented. This feels like a dream, Eros added. I never thought Holland would ever be respectful. All members of the Union got ready for the special event, including the allies. Nobles, famous folk, and honorable knights were all present at the special occasion on the shiny white snow. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mayor West, Klus said, shaking his hand as members of the Union and company stood nearby. They all had on a fancy attire outside behind a lustrous building while classy music played in the background. The courtyard was lustrous and the invited guests dined on delicacies outdoors. You saved our country, Mr. West said to Klus. I appreciate it, but credit really goes to. A man walks next to Mr. West. Klus, this is the military chef in the flesh. I came from afar to meet the heroes who put a stop to the leader of the bandits. Without your help, then the thieves would not be hired to plunder everything they touched. The military chief extended his hand. Klus looked at his face for a moment, then sucker punched the chief right in the face while everyone looked on. You have great blood on your hands. Klus yelled. All nations suffer because of your tactics. What's got into you? Vase asked, sitting next to a table. The man touched his bruised face in shock, then started to laugh, standing up. Who cares? All nations will bow to my might. Stop it, Klus, Sarah said, walking to him. You have to forgive them. Forgive what? You're a snow maiden, right? From the Union? I was the one who slaughtered all of your peacemakers. One after the other personally. What? Nars questioned. All the guests looked on, upset. Why would you do such a thing? One guest said. You murderer, another said. All power must belong to the strongest and not the ways of old. Take that back, Phi said. Who's going to make me stop bullying the other nations? He then looks at Sarah and chuckles. Surely not you. A challenge, the mayor said. Sarah unraveled her sword, as did Zayatheroth. You peacemakers speak about holy nonsense, but power belongs to the aggressive. This will be a duel match, not a death match, Sarah said. I forgive you for what you've done to my tribe, but for the divine maidens and honor of the holy knights, I will win this fight. Fine nose eels, he said. The two squared up and their swords clashed. Get her, Zayatheroth. One knight chanted. Beat the tyrant, another guest said. Both the opponents fought aggressively, and evenly as dents were made in their armors. Keep it up, Klus cheered. Rip him a new one, Phi shouted. He's way stronger than I thought, Sarah said to herself, being pushed back by his mild swings. I have to use my trump card. Sarah kicked Zayatheroth to the chest, making him tumble. What's wrong, weakling? Had enough, he teased. Sarah calmed her nerves and changed her stance completely. The crowd of onlookers looked amazed. Suddenly, with all her strength, she thrust her sword at his chestplate with all her strength, pushing him back, then falling on his back. The crowd cheered, even the knights. Sarah walked slowly to the man on the ground, who looks angry. He then opened his eyes wider as ice shards went through her chest plate. He's a ice user? A guest questioned. Hey, he cheated, another said. The Union members all rushed to the hurt heroine. Are you okay? Thanolius asked. She's losing a lot of blood, Eros stated. One by one they took out the large ice needles from her body as a healer from the crowd tried to help stop the blood flow. Klus walks up to the military chief angrily. You're an ice user, but you persecute those who use other zeals or are from other kingdoms? What's it to you, he replied. You hypocrite. Klus pointed at him. I do what needs to be done for the pride of Holland. Close while by the fountain stared to get even more mad as the water in the fountain started to shine. The crowd was immediately astonished. Standing on the side of the fountain, the water miraculously gushed out wildly, spraying gently on the hurt snow maiden. What's this? Base questioned. Her wounds are healing. What? Saitharoth questioned. Clis did not notice the light of the water but looks in the direction of Sarah. Her whole body glowed gold, then she levitated in front of the fountain. Feathers fell from the air all around as white wings appeared on her back. It's a miracle, a youngster said. Yes, Sarah said. I am just a servant of the creator of Holland, she said, walking towards Zaitharoth, who looked astonished. We are all servants of holiness. I see the light, he said, looking ashamed. This is amazing, Clis said with a joyful smile. Sarah turned to Clis's direction, then the feathers stopped and her feathers went away. Chapter 7. Everyone in the Kingdom of Holland heard about the miracle, and the members of the Union headquarters was moved into the Castle of Holland by the King's authority. The Golden Knight was given a royal high status as an official knight under the new military chief Sarah Innos. She is now wearing her military outfit with the same pattern of her tribe. Tell us how to proceed, the king said on his throne as Sarah, Clis and Thenolius stood before him. We have to hit the monster hard, Clis said. A frontal assault. Don't be so hasty, Clis, Thenolius said. We have way more allies, he said with a smile. Clis chuckled. This is why you're the tactician, Clis said. With the cooperation of King Eros we can do a frontal and rear assault. My men will draw out the demon's minions. And Eros soldiers can attack on the ship. We need all the help we can get now because Valdamus is twice as powerful. Clis added. Indeed, the king said. Only with united respect can this world be cleansed by the heart of a stranger, Sarah quoted. This is a long shot, but maybe we can ask Issa to join the new Union of Nations. That would further connect with the ancient poem, and I'm sure Aquatus would love to receive some help. Clis said. The continent of Issa has kept to themselves since ancient times. The king said. Your Majesty. A knight interrupted the conversation, bursting through the doors. The knight bowed slightly, standing by the three when got near. Aquatus has been breached. Their soldiers are having a hard time fending off the monsters, even our own. Dang it, Clis said. Water seemed to have no effect, Eros said, walking with a warrior's attire. Eros, where's your crown and kingly garment? It's not my style, Eros said. You're more humble than me, the Holland king responded with a smile. We need the nature of ice to pierce it, Eros said, walking towards them. The beast is smart. My troops are only fighting off its scent demons. He knows his time is up, Clis said. Ah. What was that? Clis asked, looking at the entrance of the throne room. Phi opened the doors quickly. It's Aten. He's frozen, Phi said in the hallway. He's an ice statue, Eros said, walking towards them. We have to find the Sackwater by joining together or more victims will die like this. Clis said drastically. That same day the Union buried Aten and sailed off to Issa, traveling to another portal by the sea to reach their destination more quickly. Finally we've arrived in Isona, Phi said as Clis, Sarah, and Eros walked on the ice landmass. These flowers are beautiful, Sarah said, looking at the flowers of ice here and there. I miss this place, Phi said as they enter a city entirely made of ice. It has lost its shine, Phi said as children play in the ice street. How so? Clis asked. The alien has returned. Suddenly a crowd of people started to gather around. What do you want? A woman said with all blue attire. Please, we need your help. We have no government or leader, but I ask that the only people that I have ever known help fight the monster of Aquatus. PFF. Why should we help them? One man asked. Because without ice manipulation we cannot win. They all ignored Phi and suddenly went their way. Then she turned to Clis. They won't listen me. What a bunch of heartless folk. Eros commented. How can we earn their trust? Clis asked Phi. She immediately looks around suspiciously. Well, there is one way. There's a secret that the citizens of Issa sworn to never tell outsiders. I may be a citizen of this nation, but I'm considered an outsider too. All people from the world of ice live in their dreams, ruled by a woman called the Queen of Dreams. You're joking, Clis replied. I've never heard of this, have you, Sarah? Eros asked. No, but I sense a darkness lurking in these people's minds. I can't believe I'm saying this, but let's sleep, Clis said. Later the team slept in Phi's home, isolated in the forest. Welcome to the illusion, Phi announced. The entire dream world had a slight bluish tint beyond comprehension. The Union is now in the same exact place, but everything looked lustrous. The trees were more colorful and Phi's home was that of a miniature castle. Clis and Sarah walked out of her home slowly. Wait a minute, where's Eros? Clis asked. I think his lizard form might be the reason he's not here, Phi said. Come on, let's see the town. Everything was lustrous. The ice homes were more detailed and everyone looked happy. You're still lingering here with your friends? The same woman that questioned her walked to her, but she dressed more stylishly. Phi, a woman's voice filled the air and everyone that heard it bowed to the ground. A woman wearing a black fashionable dress appeared in thin air in front of them. Where did she come from? Kliss asked. This is the so-called Queen of Dreams. I've been the queen since the beginning of existence. Wait a moment, I had a dream about you previously, Sarah said. Now that I got a good look at you, I dreamed that you and Valdamu were standing next to each other. That's very perspective for a blind woman, the woman said. I serve under him secretly. That may be true, but you're blind if you think that you've been ruling the people of Issa's dreams since the beginning. She's right, Kliss agreed. You're just a deceiver like he is. Yes, but deception can be a powerful tool. My brother was the military chief of Holland. How did you know about that? Kliss asked. Your nation is cut off from the rest. I knew about the Union and your precious search for the so-called sacred water from the start. Hidden works, Sarah replied. Kill them, Queen Platna said. All of a sudden 2 men with swords of ice appeared. One on her right and one on her left. Kliss engaged the warrior wielding an ice hammer. And Sarah fought with the other warrior with a sword covered by ice. Phi, when will you ever learn? You will always be hated here. You're better off just wandering the other kingdoms. Phi punched the woman in the face, making her stumble. You dare attack your queen? Both of them withdrew their swords and fought one another aggressively. Kliss stabbed the man but was also stabbed in a stalemate. The sword of his opponent missed his vitals. Sarah's breastplate is being hammered while she kneels to the ground, then Sarah clashes her sword with his hammer in a deadlock. Hold on, Sarah, I'm coming, Kliss shouted as he walked tiredly to her position. You think you can beat me, I'm Queen Platna? She taunted while in a sword lock with Phi. In your dreams. Phi responded. Her eyes glowed blue and a log of ice pushed the woman back, knocking her off her feet. I don't know how your eyes glow with light, but I am the beacon of paradise. The woman pushed back Phi far away with icy wind, making her body shoot in a small pond behind a resident's home. Phi. Sarah and Kliss notices her body tossed in the air above him with the queen's power. The queen then teleported in front of the pond and began to freeze her with her mind. Kliss and Sarah worked together and finally smote their opponent simultaneously by stabbing. We have to save Phi, Sarah said. They immediately ran towards her position. It is inevitable, she said as she finished freezing Phi entirely in a pond of ice. Chapter 8. You monster! Sarah screamed and began to attack the queen with her sword. Kliss sprints to the frozen pond. You're not dying on me yet, princess. Kliss closed his eyes and summoned a waterfall of hot water directly onto the pond of ice. Sarah and Platna are evenly matched, both are receiving cuts in their flesh while enduring. The queen pushed back Sarah with the same icy wind, making her smash into the window of the resident. The queen then views Kliss as he tries to thaw Phi. Ha! She laughed. Are you insane? But quickly after seeing the steam she immediately was shocked. How is it hot? Platna asked. The body of Phi was defrosted while floating in the water. Platna closed her eyes and then opened them sternly. Then a shower of large hail pieces fell on Kliss's head, knocking him unconscious. The queen laughs again, walking toward the lifeless bodies, then turned her back to walk away. Sarah starts to crawl out of the window tiredly and hurt, but is immediately dumbfounded by what she just saw. Phi gently levitated out of the pond while the water that dripped from her body shined. It's just like the fountain, Sarah said, amazed. Phi hovered towards Platna with no facial expression. But how, she asked. You must be from the Aska tribe, Phi said, looking at her angrily. How did you know that? I am far more older than you can comprehend, she said. No, your memories. They've returned. I am Fiona, the Celestial of Issa. It's time for you to wake up. Fiona's eyes begin to shine as the evil woman ran. Suddenly stars fell in her direction. The Queen of Dreams automatically shields her whole body in strong ice. The stars kept falling on the woman, piercing through the shield, making holes inside and totally breaking the shield, revealing Patna's beaten body shortly afterwards. But how? She asked with her last breath. It's a technique before your time, she said. The Queen of Dreams' eyes closed. Then at once everyone's spirit returns to their bodies. Kliss' eyes opened back from reality, then sits up from his bed. My head hurts, he said, rubbing his forehead briefly. Then he runs to Sarah across from him. Did that just happen? He asked her while she got up from a couch. That was no dream, Phi said, sitting up in her bed. Phi, you're okay? Kliss ran and hugged her. Yeah, Thanks to you, chosen one. I knew your ancestors, she said. Everyone cheered with joy in the streets of the town heard from the room's window. The three rushed outside and was immediately amazed. All the homes shined miraculously. The ancient light has returned, a man said, running around happily. Look, there she is. A group of people all ran towards Phi with a totally different attitude. You're a star, one person said. This is better than a dream, another said. We're sorry we were jealous of you and persecuted you all the time. How can we ever thank you? The same woman that greeted her twice harshly asked. Well, there is one thing, Fiona responded. The darkness is lifted, Sarah said with a smile next to her. I guess Eros is a heavy sleeper, Kliss said. Everyone laughed shortly, then continued to examine the glory of the nation. Chapter 9/Final chapter. The next wave of the Union members are sailing to Aquatis on ships. The first waves of ships from Holland stayed in position from behind Aquatis. Coming from the east, the world of rain positioned their soldiers across from the world of ice. More Holland ships positioned themselves in front of Aquatis. After powerful signals of lights was fired and heard by massive flares from within Aquatis and outside it. All warriors from each nation descended into the world of water through its many entrances. This is it, Kliss said as Sarah, Phi and Eros walk within the damaged kingdom on the road. That monster wrecked this poor nation, Sarah stated. You know, I never liked Aquatis because of their worldliness. But I almost feel sorry for them now, Eros said. Phi chuckled slightly. Both Aquatis and Tyr kingdoms are similar but totally opposite, Phi said. All right, team. The knights from Holland was seen quietly getting in positions by hiding neatly outside of each building alongside soldiers of Aquatis. To the four heroes' surprise upon arrival of the underwater city, many people continued to carry on with their business as if nothing had ever happened. Are you kidding me? Phi said as the team approached the start of a loud parade with people celebrating. The people danced and sung on a golden street by the damaged houses and shops. The beast is sound sensitive, so it will be a matter of time until it shows itself, Eros said. No, Kliss said, upset. He ran closer to the side of the people marching. You have to evacuate. Valdamu sent monsters are in this very area. The people ignored him and carried on their way. Unbelievable. Well, let's head to the towers of Norway, Kliss assisted. At once, while the four heroes were in position on top of the tower's roof overlooking the city, the screams of thousands of people were heard in every direction. It's here, Eros stated. Random sea creatures that looked like big anglerfish supernaturally swam in the air, attacking any person it saw. The ghostly beings looked like apparitions that glowed with purple light. The united warriors of the Union, including soldiers of Aquatis, all came out of position and started to slay the beasts with their weapons. The citizens of Aquatis ran in all directions foolishly. Warriors dedicated to the sacred warrior all emerged from the roofs of many buildings and started to shoot the creatures with their projectiles of ice and lightning downward at the enemy, assisting the troops from below. The multiple towers were higher than the buildings of the area, which gave the four a better view. There it is, Phi shouted. A massive aquatic monster with the head of a T-Rex with fins supernaturally swam above the city's building from the right of the heroes. It has transformed, Sarah said. It looks totally different now because Valdamu joined with his other self. This must be its original form, Eros said. You? The sound of Valdamu's voice was heard filling up the surrounding area as it moved like it swam towards them speedingly from the air. Now's our chance, Kliss shouted. Kliss summoned his trump card of a waterfall of hot water which burned the monster severely, making it fall on the tower next to them. I trained my mind to make it way more hotter now, Kliss said while focusing his mental attack. It's your turn now, just like we planned. Then at once Sarah, followed by Phi and Eros, combined their powers of wind, ice and lightning towards the monster still suffering from the pain of Kliss's boiling water. With the combined efforts, the creature started to catch on fire as the team continued to afflict him mentally with their minds. The burning creature rolled off the high tower and fell to the ground. It's been staggered. Kliss shouted, we have to finish it now. Sarah's body shined with light, then manifested wings, then turned to Kliss. Meet you guys down there. Just jump and I'll catch you. She then flew towards the ground. Phi removed her sword from her waist, then levitated behind Sarah. Jump! Sarah screamed momentarily afterwards. Here goes nothing, Eros said. The two jumped off the tower, but halfway down Sarah's cold upward wind broke their fall, gently lowering them down to the ground with her mind. Phi wasted no time slicing Valdamu with her blade. The huge monster growled because of the pain. Quickly it opened its mouth and shot a laser beam of its purple energy at Phi, pushing her off her feet and sending slamming to the ground. I will cast you out, Sarah shouted, unsheathing her sword beside Kliss and Eros. Klus ran to the monster and threw his sword like a javelin at its head, making it suffer in pain, but the creature countered by shooting another laser beam of dark energy directly at Klus. Klus rolled over twice after the impact. "Be careful," Eros said to Sarah, "he's been saving this attack. It's his trump card because no one's seen it do this on record." Eros then faced the burning creature and forced a miniature thunderstorm. Eros shocked the creature with lightning from above it while Sarah flew behind it while it was stunned by electricity. She chopped off half of its tail by continuously hacking it fiercely. Phi walked tiredly to the monster nearby while it tried to swim upward away. While the creature levitated, she summoned large ice cycles from the ground, stabbing the creature in place. "You fools!" Valdamu shouted supernaturally. Klus snuck from the side of the beast half alive with blood leaking from his chest. When he got close to the sword already stuck to his head, he pulled it out and gave a loud shout, then stabbed the forehead of the beast. The monster stopped moving, for it was dead. Klus fell on his back unconscious as Eros' rain continued to cover the area. "Klus!" Phi screamed. Sarah and Eros gathered to the defeated warrior lying in a pool of his own blood. The members of the Union that saw the epic battle also gathered slowly to the scene. Suddenly a purple light shot out of the monster upwards in the air, then it headed east up above. "Is he dead?" Eros asked. Sarah's wings retracted as her face looked saddened. "Wait a minute, why is the storm still here?" Eros asked. Phi and Sarah look up then around while it continuously rained on everyone. "I'm not manipulating it," he said. Then the rain shined. Everyone looked around amazed. Klus' body then transformed into water itself. His whole body seemed to be made up of liquid. "Klus, what's happening to you?" Sarah asked, amazed. Klus gets up while being fused with water supernaturally. He looked up and then miraculously dashed upward as if he was a reverse lightning bolt. After the flash, the members of the Union looked around confused and also amazed. "What happened to him?" Phi asked Eros. "We were wrong all this time," he responded. "He has chosen to manipulate the sacred water," Sarah said. The blood of Klus glowed the same color as the rain, then the rain subsided. "It's in his bloodline." Eros started looking at his glowing blood. Phi smiled while staring at it. "Even blood contains water. Who would have thought?" she said. "Sir, we're surrounded." A warrior of Issa ran to the three captains. "It seems like there's millions of these things flooding the entire space." "What?" Phi questioned. "There are more even coming this way," the man said. "We can't evacuate even if we tried. There's too many of them." Suddenly a flood of sea monsters revealed themselves out of nowhere. Sarah, Eros and Phi looked at each other disheartened. Eros unsheathed his sword once more. Then looked at Phi and Sarah. "To the end," Eros said calmly. Immediately the three ran towards the wave of abominations hovering towards them. People screamed in fear all over Aquatis, but not in the heart of water. The separated city of the world of water. A large supernaturally created temple submerged in water was in the middle of the underwater city. The citizens screamed and ran because they saw the spirit of Valdamu going in it. Klus appeared behind the spirit of Valdamu like a lightning bolt, still infused with sacred water all round his body. "Valdamu." Klus spoke within his sacredness, sounding like water. "Klus. I'm glad you made it," the spirit of war said. "I have merely seconds, but it's too late. Your people have hid this weapon only reserved for spirits. All I have to do is merge myself with the blade, and it's that simple." Standing next to an altar, he grabbed the sword from the pillar, and immediately the sword transformed into a monster with a red light covering it. "I have to slay him now," Klus said in his mind. Valdamu then started to swing at Klus with the dark blade, but Klus evaded the swing, then quickly drew his weapon. Even Klus's blade was covered with sacred water. When the swords touched, he noticed the sacred water was absorbing Klus's energy. As they both struck each other with their swords underwater with ease of motion, more and more Klus started to feel drained. His movements were not at his peak. "What's wrong, Klus?" "Feeling woozy. The sword is manifesting my inner darkness. I am an abomination to you, therefore your purity is absorbed." Valdamu bested Klus because of his tiredness and continues to slash his body rapidly. "I'm starting to feel pain. The water, it's not enough to protect me because it's going away. Your shield of water won't last," Valdamu said while slicing him. "You'll drown by the time I'm through." Klus starts to shout in pain because he started to feel the effects of this weapon. "It's over," Valdamu taunted. Klus knew that he was about to die, slowly being paralyzed by the drain. "I don't have any strength left." He then dropped his weapon from his hand. Klus thought about the Union in his final moments. He thought about Phi, Sarah, Eros and all the countries now united, then tears formed from both his eyes. Quickly they gleamed briefly. While being hacked to death more and more, he shut his eyes tight, then opened them wide. At once the entire temple of water glowed. And immediately Valdamu started to cry out in pain. How? He said as his body was melting away like hot acid. He's boiling me alive, he said. Of course, we're inside water. Ah! The evil blade left his hand as he melted away into nothingness, then it transformed back to its original state as it fell. Plus swam out of the temple of water still engulfed by sacred water. The citizens of Heart of Water went to him and they all bowed slightly with respect. Klus teleported like a lightning bolt again, then reappeared before the main heroes. Klus. Sarah shouted his name. The sacred water covering his body faded away mysteriously. Sarah, Eros and Phi hugged him one at a time. The spirit of war and chaos is destroyed. Klus said we can now live in peace with brotherly love. Sir. A scout from Tyr rushed toward the group. All spirits have disappeared. A time later Klus is manipulating a pot of water with his mind wearing a all-white attire. The water shined as he poured it in a wooden cup. He then gave it to an old man who was very pale. You know, you remind me of an archaeologist. When he drank it, his body immediately was revitalized. I'm cured, he said. Thank you so much. Then the man walked away from the castle cheerfully. You know, I think that's the last person you cured personally with the sacred water, Sarah said, standing next to him. Klus turned to Sarah and smiled. No, there is one more left, Klus said. Klus poured the water from the pot, then gave it to her. She drank the water slowly. When she finished, Klus removed the cup from her hand. Open your eyes, Sarah. Sarah slowly opened them slowly. Oh my word. I can see. She sees Klus for the first time and hugs him with her best smile. A time later, Klus, Phi, Sarah and Eros are all climbing a mountain. When they reached the top they were amazed. We've done it. Eros said. What a sight to behold, Sarah commented. The lost continent. Phi said happily. The heroes beheld a busy village surrounded by clouds. Water is water, Phi stated. Even clouds, Sarah added. Water is the badge of our nations. And by it we are alive because of the true source, which is the living water. The end. Water Emblem.